Okay, so imagine this. You want to build an app. You need one for the iPhone, one for Android, and one for the web. I mean, that sounds like a ton of work, right? A huge expense. Well, today we're going to dive into React Native. It's this amazing technology that promises to do all three, but with just one team and one code base. It's a total game changer, and we're about to find out exactly how it pulls off this little magic trick. So, to really get why React Native even exists, you got to know about this famous, almost prophetic rule in the developer world called Atwood's Law. The gist is simple. If something can be written in JavaScript, it eventually will be. It's this idea that JavaScript is just destined to take over and run, well, everywhere. And once smartphones became, the center of our universe, everywhere absolutely positively had to include our phones. But you see, that ambition led to this massive headache for developers. If you wanted your app to reach everybody, you had to build it twice. You had one team building for Apple's iOS and a totally separate team building for Google's Android. I mean, we're talking two different code bases, two different skill sets, basically double the work, double the cost. It was a huge problem, and everyone was looking for a better way to do things. And so the first real attempt at a solution came along. And look, it was a clever idea, but it had this kind of hidden downside. A downside that you, the user, would actually feel every single time you open the app. This was the era of what we call the web view. All right, so tools like Apache Cordova and PhoneGap came out with this really appealing philosophy: write once, run anywhere. The idea was pretty simple, actually. They let you take a website you'd already built and just kind of wrap it up in a native shell for both iOS and Android. Think of it like putting a website inside a native app box. And hey, it worked. You could get your app on both app stores with just one set of code. But, and this is a big but, there was a catch. It just never felt right, Because you weren't really using a native app. You were poking at a website trapped inside an app. Things felt sluggish, a little clunky. It just felt disconnected from your phone. That premium, smooth user experience, yeah, that was missing. And that right there is where the whole story pivots. This is when the philosophy completely shifted. React Native shows up, and it's not just another tool. It's a fundamentally different way of thinking about this whole problem. Okay, this slide right here, this is the absolute core of it all. The old way, the WebView way, was write once, run anywhere. But React Native comes in with a totally new mantra: learn once, write anywhere. And that difference is huge. Let me give you an analogy. It's like being a chef. You don't learn how to cook one specific dish, you learn the principles of cooking: heat, flavor, technique. Then you can walk into any kitchen in the world, use their local ingredients, and make an amazing, authentic meal. That's the idea here. You learn one set of skills, and then you can build authentic experiences on any platform. So, let's be super clear about this, because it's the most important part. React Native is not a website in a box. I'll say it again. It is not a website in a box. A web developer uses the skills they already have, but the code they write doesn't spit out website stuff. No, it creates the real, official, 100% native buttons, sliders, and views that are part of iOS and Android. It's the genuine article. Okay, so how on earth does that even work? How do you write JavaScript, a web language, and end up with a real native mobile app? Well, let's pop the hood and take a look. For a developer, it feels a lot like building a website with React. The big difference is, instead of using the usual web tags, like a div for a container or a p for a paragraph, you're using a whole new set of universal building blocks that React Native gives you. And these are some of those core building blocks. Think of them like universal Lego bricks. You've got your view, which is kind of like your main container, your flat base plate. Then you snap on a button, you add a switch, you put in a scroll view for lists. See? You're not writing website code, you're just snapping together these common pieces to build out your app's UI. And here it is. This is the magic trick explained. When you run your app, React Native acts like a brilliant real-time translator. It sees your universal view brick and goes, okay, we're on an iPhone right now. That means this needs to become a UView, which is Apple's real official component. Then it says, oh wait, now we're on an Android phone. This has to be an Android view, which is Google's official component. So your app isn't pretending. It's literally built from the real native parts for each device. And the result of all this? Just incredible efficiency. You're basically getting 3 apps, one for iOS, one for Android, and a lot of the time one for the web too, for the effort of building one. A huge chunk of your code, maybe 90% or more, can be shared across every single one of those platforms. Okay, but wait a minute. This brings up a really good question, right? What if you don't want your app to look exactly the same everywhere? I mean, you know how it is. iPhone users expect certain things, and Android users expect other things. How do you handle those platform-specific details?
Well, the answer is actually pretty straightforward. There's this handy little tool called the platform module. It literally lets your code ask a simple question. Hey, am I running on iOS right now? If the answer is yes, boom, you show an Apple-style component. If the answer is no, you show a Google-style one. It's that easy. It gives developers that fine-tuned control exactly where they need it.
And styling? How do you make things look good? Well, for any web developers out there, this is where things get a little different. First up, there's no CSS. You say goodbye to your separate style sheet files. Instead, every single component gets its style, colors, fonts, sizes, passed directly to it inside a JavaScript object. The cool thing about this is it keeps everything related to one button, for example, all bundled together in one spot. But look, the core technology we've been talking about, that's really only half the story. The real superpower of React Native is the huge global community of developers that supports it, builds for it, and makes it better every single day. Think about it. What happens when you need to do something more complex, like access the phone's camera, or use GPS for the user's location, or send push notifications? You don't have to reinvent the wheel. The odds are incredibly high that someone in the community has already built a fantastic free open source package for that. You just install it, and you're good to go, often in just a few minutes. And all this makes the day-to-day life of a developer so much better. You get incredible tools like fast refresh, which means you can change a line of code and see it update live on your phone instantly. It's amazing. You've got access to NPM, which is basically this giant online library with thousands of free code packages for pretty much anything you can imagine. And then you have these amazing frameworks like Expo that take care of all the tedious setup and deployment stuff so you can just focus on the fun part, actually building your app. And here's one final super important point to remember. React Native is incredibly flexible. You can totally use it to build a brand new app from the ground up, but you can also use it to build just one single screen inside an app that's already built natively. You can integrate it piece by piece. It's not this all or nothing thing, and that makes it a really powerful choice, especially for companies that already have existing apps. So that all brings us to the really big, exciting question about the future, right? We started this journey in a world where you needed two separate teams to build two apps. Now, a single set of skills that came from the web, can be used to build real native experiences pretty much everywhere. So what's next? Are we going to see this same approach take over on our watches, our TVs, maybe even in our cars? Because React Native isn't just a technology. It's a completely new way of thinking about how we build software for the world around us. And that story is definitely not over yet.